If you think your boss is a bully or a wimp or just plain nuts, you are definitely not alone. You can hear the snickering in the control room. Fortune magazine columnist and workplace guru Stanley claims that all bosses are insane in his new book, Crazy Bosses. As advice to help us handle them, Stanley is actually Gil Schwartz, Executive Vice President of Corporate Communications here at CBS. Good morning.
Good morning, Harry.
Now, is this really true that all bosses are crazy?
Well, yes, I mean, I believe it is. You know, my experience has been that as people are bosses for a matter of time, they get crazier. And I think it's the nature of authority that it just drives people just a little bit over the edge.
What is it about, though, the modern American workplace that the crazy people end up on top?
Well, first of all, there's a kind of selection process where, you know, when people are coming into the organization, it's the craziest ones that kind of are selected out for senior management.
Right.
That's the first thing. The second thing is that the nature of the pressurized workplace and the burdens of authority and the need to know what you're doing a lot is it's terrible for people because most people don't really know what they're doing a lot of the time. And then when you're a boss, people come in and they say, what should we do? And you have to pretend that you know. So there's a lot of pressure on people, and it makes people crazy. It's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, you can be very effective and still be a crazy boss.
That's my next question, because I looked through the book and I looked for the chart where that equates craziness with competence.
Well, there's a direct relationship.
Yeah.
I mean,
is there a correlation?
Yeah, my theory is that you need to be crazy in order to be highly effective. And so, you know, some of us who remain in middle management may simply not be crazy enough.
Not crazy enough.
I'm working on it, by the way.
We'll look at your chart when we finish the segment.
Oh, excellent.
Because you're an aspiring crazy person.
Well, it is, and I like to talk about me.
Well, actually, here is your chart. You chart your own personal growth. Yes. You're 127% better at bullying than you were in 1988.
I have compound double-digit growth in all the areas of pathology and in every area. And as I get more important to myself, of course, I grow in my craziness.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though: how bullying and wimpiness. Because one of your prototypes of crazy bosses is the wimp. Now, what are the characteristics of the wimp?
Well, the wimp is a person who has difficulty making decisions, who needs to call a lot of meetings, who needs to hire a consultant to find out what kind of a tie or he or she should be wearing that day. There's a lot of activity about the process of decision making, and then when the time comes to make the decision, he turns to the person who works for him and says, all right, what are we doing? So, and by the way, you know, this opens up an interesting thing, because to work for a crazy boss is very often a terrific opportunity, because craziness creates this gap where the crazy person can't function very well.
Sure.
And if you can help a paranoid feel better about things,
you can be the enabler.
Exactly. And if you look at some of the great paranoids in history, you know, like Richard Nixon, Richard III, many other Richards, I guess. There are people who have worked for them who have been almost as famous as they are, because they fill in the gap of the functioning crazy boss.
I'm liking this wimpy model. The other model I was particularly taken by is the disaster hunter.
Well, you know, this is a continuum. This is sort of like a gorgeous mosaic where people move through being bullies and paranoids and wimps, but in the end, people eventually shoot themselves in some part of their body. You know, and they go down in flames. And you know, I mean,
you call Bill Clinton as a kind of a classic example of.
He gave his enemies the weapons they needed to battle him and ultimately, in some ways, defeat his presidency throughout a long period of time. And you have to wonder, the man is a very smart guy and had a lot going on, and was it really necessary to give his enemies that weapon?
Now, we looked at that chart for a second of all your growth and craziness, right? Are you aspiring to be a truly crazy boss, or you will be satisfied to stay in the middle?
No, I'm never satisfied. I'm going to try to grow my craziness until somebody gets rid of me.
All right,
that's the idea.
You need to work on that disaster hunting percentage.
You know, some people may agree with you about that. You know, speed myself up out of here, you know.
Gil, always a pleasure.
Nice, Harry.
And you can read an excerpt from Crazy Bosses on our website at cbsnews.com. You might have just picked up a couple of points right there. We'll be right back. You're watching The Early Show on CBS.